The night before we began filming Sins of the Past, I had laryngitis. Since I was the director, the production company had a doctor come to the apartment where I was staying with my wife in Auckland. The doctor gave me penicillin, and he said I would be fine if I got plenty of rest, stayed in bed, and didn't use my voice for a couple of days. The next morning I was on set at 5 a.m., hoping the rain would stop so I could spend the next 14 hours standing in the mud shouting directions to people. I'm Doug Lefler. I directed the pilot episode of Xena Warrior Princess. I actually had become a director from being a storyboard artist. I was Sam Raimi's storyboard artist on Army of Darkness, and that evolved into him giving me the opportunity to direct second unit on that film, which was a wonderful experience. I directed the pilot episode of Hercules, The Legendary Journeys, the year before. And I had recently wrote and directed the second season opener for Hercules, which was called The King of Thieves. It was a story that introduced the character of Bruce Campbell. The character Bruce Campbell played, the character's name was Autolycus. So I'd been down to New Zealand and been working on this series for a long time. I only peripherally knew Lucy. I actually knew Renee O'Connor much better. Renee and I had worked together on one of the early Hercules TV movies, was Lost Kingdom. Lucy had been in a couple of the TV movies, playing different characters, and she had actually auditioned for me for Circle of Fire, which was the TV movie I directed in the Hercules series. So I got to know her, and I'd have to say that she's one of the nicest people on planet Earth, and also one of the hardest working actors I've ever known. And her audition was great, but it was such a small part that I recommended to the producers that we save her for something more substantial. And something more substantial came along. When it came time for us to do the 3-episode arc in Hercules that introduced the character of Xena, Rob Tappert, one of the producers, sat down. He and I sat down to talk about the action. Rob said that he wanted, I believe Rob suggested this, that we give Xena a signature weapon. And I told him about a weapon that I had an idea for a project that I had written back in the 80s. It was a Patrick Swayze film called Steel Dawn. And I had envisioned Patrick Swayze's character having this metal disc that was sharp on the outside and dull on the inside. And he could throw it like a boomerang, but he had to catch it on the inside of the ring. If anybody else tried to catch it, they'd probably cut off their fingers. I had put, this was in the storyboards that I drew for Steel Dawn, but the director of that project couldn't wrap his head around how that would work cinematically, so he cut it from the action. However, Rob could visualize how it was going to work cinematically, and Xena's chakram was born. On one of the earlier movies on Lost Kingdom, had suggested we do a forced perspective sequence with a giant. Harley Coklas, the director of that episode, had wanted Hercules to fight a giant, but the production didn't have money for optical. So I said, well, if you let me do it in second unit, I think I can do it all on camera. So I planned it. I showed the storyboards to Rob Tappert, and he said, how do you know this is going to work? So I showed him Darby O'Gill and the Little People, and I convinced him that the technology was old and trustworthy. So again, to his credit, he gave me the go-ahead to try it, and they were very happy with that. The result of all of this was that when it came time to do Sins of the Past, the script was very ambitious. We had 7 action scenes in a 42-minute episode. And I had 6 days to film it with main unit. And 2 of those 7 action scenes were forced perspective sequences with a blind Cyclops. And I remember saying, actually, I can't accomplish this. And Rob said, oh, you can do anything. And I said, no, I'm pretty sure I can't actually film all of this in the amount of time we have. In the end of the day, I think Rob managed to get me another day of shooting, and we may have beefed up the second unit. Somehow we actually did film everything that we had planned. The first episode of Xena as their own series, when Sins of the Past aired, which was 25 years ago now, that same night, I remember we had a big party at a restaurant here in Studio City near Universal Studios, and we watched both the season opener of Hercules, Legendary Journeys, which was King of Thieves, which I'd written and directed, and then we had Sins of the Past immediately after that. And I remember I received a message from Brad Bird, who was one of my roommates in art school, congratulating me on taking a 2-hour bite out of primetime television. And I was very pleased that night, and it was a great experience. And I'm very grateful to Sam Raimi and to Rob Tappert for having faith in me, letting me be part of that experience. And I'm very grateful to Lucy Lawless and to Renee O'Connor and the rest of the cast of Xena, and to Kevin Sorbo and the rest of the cast of Hercules for all of the experiences and all of the memories.